Today I'm going to be making a German dish called Bierocks, Bierocks. This little German puffed pastry filled with yumminess kind of goes back to our German roots for my family, which originated in Kansas. It's a Kansas tradition, especially around Oktoberfest. You'll see Bierocks and sausage and things of German descent. So enjoy the recipe, and I look forward to showing you step by step on how to make Bierocks. I have my skillet heated up on about medium heat. Tossed in my diced onions into a little bit of the spray oil and sprinkled that with a little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic powder. I like to cook my onions down a little bit because I don't really care for them crunchy, and sometimes that happens if you don't cook your onions before you add the meat a little bit. So cooking those down just a little bit. Once those start to brown slightly, I'm going to add my chopped peppers. Make sure I get all of those. Kind of for the same reason as the onions, just to make those a little bit on the softer side. Let those sit and cook on medium for just another minute or two, and then we'll add the ground beef to that mixture and brown it. I'll probably add just a touch more salt, pepper, maybe just a pinch of the garlic. Beef to the peppers and onion mixture. And we're just gonna let that brown and mix everything up as it continues to cook. I've taken just a little bit of salt, pepper, and garlic powder, not much at all. I'll just blend those in or stir those in to the ground beef mixture and the peppers and onions. About right. And again, we're just going to let that brown over medium heat until the hamburger is cooked through. And while we're doing that, we have the dough over here sitting in a bowl, and that's going to allow it to rise while we're preparing the filling. So once we have the filling prepared, we'll come back over and check on the dough. It should rise just a little bit more than what you see here. We'll sprinkle some flour on our cutting board here, and then I'll show you how we roll out the dough and prepare it for filling. And we're wrapping up to bake. Now that our ground beef is browned fully and everything looks like it's on the way to being fully cooked, because we've used such a lean ground beef, there's not a whole lot of grease or oil, and because we used just a non-stick spray to lightly coat the pan, there's really no need to drain the meat. If you use a less lean meat that has more fat in it, you'll definitely want to drain the grease off of it. But once the ground beef is browned, we're going to add our 3 cups of shredded cabbage. And we're just going to let that cabbage cook down and wilt just a little bit to finish off our filling. Okay, our cabbage has been cooking with the ground beef mixture for only about a minute, and I've gone ahead and turned off the heat. I'm just going to let the filling mixture sit in the skillet, and that cabbage is going to continue to break down a little bit and soften, which will make it delicious for the filling of the Bierocks. So we're going to let that sit while we go back over and check on the dough for the exterior part of the Bierocks. All right, we have turned our dough out onto our lightly floured surface, and we are going to divide the dough up into 8 segments so that we can make 8 Bierocks. So what I'm going to do is just cut it in 4ths, and then I'll take each of the 4ths and cut those in half. So we will have the entire dough cut into 8 pieces. And then what we're going to do is take each of the segments and roll that up into a nice little ball. Move these guys out of the way. Roll this into a ball. And then we're just going to roll it out into a little disc. If you want to use a rolling pin, you certainly can. Take your rolling pin, that can help to kind of spread that a little thinner. We've got some nice pliable dough to use. And once you have that a little bit larger than what we have here, we're going to take the filling and put the filling in it and then wrap it up. But while we're doing this, you want to make sure and set your oven to 375 so that it's nice and warm when you're ready to bake your Bierocks. Once you have your dough segment rolled out into a cylinder shape, you're going to take about 2 tablespoons full of your filling and put that over in on your dough. When that looks about like that, you need a little bit of space around the edges so that you can fold those over. This is much easier with 2 hands, but you're just going to take in kind of a folding manner and pull the dough up over the filling, trying not to leave any room on the seams. So you might have to take and pull some of these corners up and over and just pinch those down so that you don't have things coming apart. And again, if you need a little bit of water, I always have just a little jar of water. If you pinch that with a little bit of water, that helps to kind of hold that seam together. And then you're going to take and transfer your Bierocks seam side down over to your cooking sheet. Once you have all 8 of your Bierocks stuffed and folded with the seam side down, you're going to take a piece of saran wrap and just cover those, let them sit out for about 20 to 25 minutes and let them rise just a little bit more. They should grow another half again as big as they are now before we put them in the oven. Now is a good time, if you haven't already, to set your oven temperature to 375. All right, our Bierocks have been set under some saran wrap and allowed to rise for anywhere between 20 and 25 to 30 minutes. You can just kind of watch them. It depends a lot on the temperature of your house. But once you are satisfied with the size of your Bierocks, you can take the saran wrap off of your baking sheet. And then I have taken about, I don't know, probably a 1/4 cup of milk and poured that into just a small little custard cup. And we're going to just brush the tops of our Bierocks before we put those in the oven. So you're just going to take very lightly, brush those. I probably have a lot more milk than what I actually needed. Probably only need about 1/8 of a cup or so it just doesn't take much. You're just brushing these so that they turn out. Okay, I think the Bierocks are ready to come out. They baked for right around 20 minutes. Completely finished. They look fantastic. This is what your finished product looks like. Kind of a neat little homemade Hot Pocket.